If you were trapped on a crumbling suspension bridge with a pack of highly trained Black Ops slaughterhounds ripping apart everybody in sight, what would you do? There's nowhere to run, very few places to hide, and any second now, our heroes could find themselves plummeting into a watery grave. Oh, but don't worry, folks. Big Daddy Government's here to save the day. I mean, sure, they created the monsters that did 99% of the killing, thus making everyone who's seen them a massive liability. But, yeah, it's actually not looking good. I'm gonna break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the war dogs in Project Silence. Jian Wan is a political lapdog. His sole mission in life is to help his boss, the Secretary of Security, reach the office of President, at which point he will graduate from the role of Senior Administrative Suck-Up to Chief Executive Suck-Up. His daughter must be so proud. Then again, she is trying to become a rapper, so I'm guessing not. As a matter of fact, this is probably why the dude's shipping her off to study abroad for a while. If the press somehow finds out what an absolute failure of a parent that he is, it could hurt his master's shot at the top. And we can't have that, now can we? Obviously not. And so, with victory in mind, Father of the Year packs his brat in the family crossover and sets off for the airport. It's a fairly routine trip the two of them have undoubtedly made before. However, this time, the traffic is murder, mostly due to a thick fog bank rolling over the Yantian Bridge. Of course, it certainly doesn't help that some demon-speeding speed demon maniac has to haphazardly weave between lanes to appease his live stream audience of armchair adrenaline junkies. And wouldn't you know it, today's episode is gonna be extra special. Oof. Say goodbye to that Scentbird deal and your life. Sadly, it seems our super speeder isn't the only one swept up in the carnage, and in a matter of seconds, a massive pileup forms blocking both directions of travel. As for our heroes, they were fortunate enough to have been on the airport-bound side, where things weren't quite as dramatic. But that doesn't change the fact that they're stuck here until the conga line of wreckers rolls in to start racking up the hook fees. That said, my biggest concern is them being stalled out second to last in a low-vis pileup. Sure, traffic going to the airport might seem pretty sparse right now, but all it takes is a single inattentive truck driver staring at the mess on the left, and you and your daughter are getting hosed off the dashboard. Now, judging by the trajectory of the moon and the sun, I'd say, wait, can you hear that? It sounds like top-tier audio quality delivered at half the price of other premium brands. And that can only mean Raycon is sponsoring today's video. That's right, Raycon asked me to tell you how to get 15% off their entire site. After all, Father's Day is right around the corner, so if you've got an awesome dad in your life, why not save a little extra while giving him the gift of superior sound? Raycon's latest everyday earbuds come with a 32-hour battery life and a quick charge function that turns 10 minutes of charging into 90 minutes of World War I ambiance, or whatever you listen to. The new models also come with multi-point connectivity, allowing you to pair two devices at once for seamless transitions. In fact, I use this all the time. I'll start a call on my laptop and then switch it over to my phone if I need to take my poodle out. But my favorite features will always be Raycon's awareness mode and active noise cancellation. One will save your life and the other will save your sanity. Seriously though, the last thing that I need is to miss the opening screams of the zombie apocalypse because I'm jamming out to Infant Annihilator on an afternoon run. And you know, the second I get on an airplane, I'm switching on the ANC and pretending that the world around me does not exist until we're back on the ground. Yes, your dad's hearing will never be more selective with these bad boys, let me tell you. And they come in this handy little carrying case. It's durable, compact, and comes with wireless charging because cords exist to make our lives difficult. Raycon is a longtime sponsor of Nerd Explains and the only earbuds that I use personally, truthfully. And with their 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee, you risk absolutely nothing if you want to try them out yourself. So if all that sounds good to you, click the link in the description or head on over to buyraycon.com/nerd to get 15% off site-wide. Thanks again to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Now, on one hand, staying inside their car would provide them with a degree of protection, as the back seat and trunk would likely absorb a significant amount of the impact. And since no one's directly in front of them, their vehicle can freely move forward and dissipate the force even further without the risk of a secondary collision. Here's the thing though, with such limited visibility, no one's gonna see them until it's already too late, and that means they'll barely have time to hit the brakes before slamming right into them. It might be rare with modern vehicles, but at highway speeds, the whiplash can snap your neck like a pretzel. And there's also the chance the impact could force them over the side of the bridge, where death is 100% guaranteed. So, what should they do? Well, it's kinda hard to say. If you look online, most sources will tell you to stay in your car with the seatbelt fastened unless faced with an immediate threat, such as a fire. But others will say it depends entirely on the situation, where you are within the pileup, and what your capabilities are. In this case, if Jian-won and Kyung-min get out of the car, the only reasonably safe place for them to go would be the soulbound side of the bridge, where things are a bit more stable. Once there, the sheer number of vehicles piled up on the road would protect them from oncoming traffic. But they'd first have to cross 3 lanes of open road in the fog, where they can't see other drivers and other drivers cannot see them. I mean, at the end of the day, there's really no low-risk option here, but staying in the car does seem like the better choice. Sure, if they get rear-ended in there, they might die, but if they get nailed while on foot, it'll look like someone smashed a can of chili, the Costco size. One thing is for sure, we've spent infinitely more time thinking about this than our hero does. 10 seconds after the crash, all he's worried about is phoning his boss about the photo op. Never let a tragedy go to waste, right? And even once his daughter finally nags him into action, dude just casually saunters right down the middle of the road like he's made out of steel, and not Chef Boyardee. All I can say is that it must run in the family, cause the kid was right about to do the exact same thing. In fact, this would have been a great opportunity to explain how walking into the freeway could be bad for your health. Maybe then, she wouldn't have gone wandering off by herself to talk with strange animals. Wow, what an absolute failure of parenting. Girl sees an absolute freak of a dog ramming its head into the guardrail, and her first reaction is to hold out cookies instead of backing away slowly. Just take her, Cujo. She's too far gone. We don't want her anymore. Unfortunately, this encounter does not end with Kyung-min getting shaken like a rat. Despite its rough appearance, the dog actually seems friendly, as do all the others that randomly showed up amongst the wreckage. This is where things start getting weird. All of a sudden, cell phone service completely shuts off for everyone on the bridge. And then, as quickly as they arrived, the dogs all mysteriously take off in the same direction, like someone shook a bag of Old Roy. You see, unbeknownst to most of our survivors here, Fido and friends are actually part of a secret government experiment creating remote-controlled murder mutts for counterinsurgency operations. As for why they're currently running around the Incheon Bridge, it turns out one of the vehicles involved in the crash was transporting them to another facility, and wouldn't you know it, some harebrained uniform decided to check on them. He's dead now. Anyway, this is incredibly stupid for reasons that we'll get into later. What matters at the moment is how the rest of the soldiers are going to contain the situation, and my god. So basically, after jamming the cell signals, they put one of their guys in a bite suit and have him stand in front of the open trailer while the stringy-haired science dork sicks the dogs on him. What follows is a lengthy and wholly unnecessary fight sequence wherein the soldier single-handedly takes on 8 dogs at once. Meanwhile, all he really had to do was climb inside the trailer and let them come in after him. After all, the scientist can seemingly turn their aggression on and off at will.
Yep, here's your problem. Someone set this thing to evil.
So once they're all inside, just flip the switch, take the guy out, and lock the door behind him. It really is as simple as that. And plus, doing it this way will prevent any of the dogs from coming up behind him and knocking his legs out, like we see here. At that point, he could just curl up into a ball and let them chew on Kevlar. And if nothing else, it'd be a lot easier to fend them off when they can only attack from a single direction. Granted, he'll be totally screwed if the doctor loses control of them, but it's not like he's any better off out in the open. The dogs are kicking his ass. And guess what? The dude still winds up leading them inside the trailer. Only now, he's barely hanging on by a thread when the doc finally calls them off. But oh well, no one died and the beasts are all back in the box. Most of them anyway. There is still one that wouldn't obey commands for some reason, but how much trouble could that possibly be? And so, with Phase 1 mostly complete, the military starts gearing up for Phase 2 of Operation Can't Possibly Fail, which apparently means airlifting the dogs off the bridge via helicopter. This is, of course, a terrible idea, being totally unnecessary at the absolute best and a recipe for absolute disaster at the worst. Remember, the dogs did not break out of the trailer on their own. They only got out because Private Kim Snuff-E deliberately opened the door. This means it could just as easily be locked up again and they wouldn't be a problem. So why not do that again? And yes, I understand the South Korean government does not want its citizens knowing about their super secret boondoggle, but as it stands right now, it's just a bunch of army dogs that got out of a truck. They didn't kill anyone. They didn't use laser vision or anything. So as far as anyone knows, that's the long and short of it. But then, all of a sudden, you've got this massive Chinook helicopter violating all publicly available safety standards to lower a huge cage over a bridge in pea soup fog. You think people might start asking questions about that? I mean, hell, you might have cut the cell service, but that doesn't mean the cameras stop working. As soon as this mess clears up, there is going to be 100 different angles of suspicious military activity popping up all over the internet, especially once things inevitably go horribly wrong. Huh, guess we found that last dog. Okay, seriously though, even if it managed to rip out its control chip on the guardrail, how did it get on top of the cage without literally anybody noticing? There was even a guy on top, for Christ's sake. Oh, and just to top it all off, the stupid mutt doesn't even die in the crash. It just bounces off a car and goes running off into the night. So you know that's gonna be a problem. Then again, it probably wouldn't have made a difference either way, as the commotion sends all the other dogs into an uncontrolled rage. And because the cage that they're in was apparently designed for rabbits, they managed to break free almost immediately with barely any effort. This results in an absolute massacre taking place on the bridge as the so-called Echo units do what they do best. Lucky for our protagonists, there's an unlocked car nearby that they can use to avoid the worst of it, at least for now. And it's a good thing too, because there is pretty much no other way that any of them were making it out of this alive. Just take a look around. Run and they'll catch you. Hide and they'll find you. Try crawling under a car. The dogs will drag you out and rip you to shreds. And don't even think about jumping over the side. We find out later that this part of the bridge was over 230 feet above the surface of the water. For reference, the Golden Gate Bridge sits at about that same height, and out of the roughly 2,000 people known to have jumped from it, less than 40 have survived. That is a 98% fatality rate, so while it is technically possible that somebody could pull it off, I'd much rather take my chances trying door handles in the hopes of finding an open car. Preferably an open car that also runs, which seems to be the case for our survivors here. And because they're on the airport side, they still have the option of fleeing back the way they came and leaving this mess in the rear view. There's just one problem. Bro, your daughter is a menace. It's time to start over. Seriously, how hard is it to control your kid? Sure, it might be a little late given you've clearly let her walk all over you for as long as she's been alive. But if all else fails, just roll her window down. That'll change her tune. And if she's so dead set on helping some spazoid comic relief tow truck driver, you know what? Let her. Chick can walk back, 'cause we're going home. Like it or not, the situation has rapidly escalated far beyond anything that we can reasonably be expected to deal with. And the longer we stick around, the better our chances of dying horribly from dog-related injuries. I mean, they crashed a goddamn helicopter. That means we can't afford to indulge Kyung Min's idealistic notions of heroism, even if it's just a matter of popping the trunk to let the tow man climb in. And sure enough, the little brat's actions hold them up just long enough for a piece of the chopper to come crashing onto the freeway and block the only way out. So yeah, great going, kid. Now no one's getting out of here. But hey, at least on the bright side, our guy found a radio he can use to call his boss and explain how they can spin all this to boost his presidential campaign. I'm dead serious, by the way. That's literally all that's on his mind right now. Never mind the massive toxic inferno raging directly in front of them, or the pack of giant dogs actively trying to break in. Knowing this, you can imagine Young Wan's shock when he finds out the super dogs were originally signed off on by the current administration, which means they technically fall under the Secretary of Security's purview. And while it's unlikely he would have been directly involved in either their development or their presence on the bridge tonight, well, try explaining that on the debate stage, especially if your right-hand man and his daughter wind up getting mauled to death. Fortunately for everyone involved, a nearby tanker truck suddenly ignites and drives the dogs away before they can break in. However, it's not all positives. The explosion also released a cloud of toxic fumes throughout the surrounding area, and since the gang's getaway car decided to crap out on them, they're left with no other choice but to flee the vehicle in search of another hiding spot. This could have easily become a death sentence had the killer canines came back, but as it turns out, there's a bus full of other survivors nearby that's happy to bring them on board. It is here that Jung Won decides to make everything worse for himself by announcing to the crowd that he is, in fact, from the government and here to help, which naturally results in everyone asking him tons of inconvenient questions like, what's with the dogs? And why are they so angry? Still, all he really had to say is, I don't know. And that would be the end of it. After all, the only thing these people need to know right now is whether there's a rescue team coming in to save them. But no. Instead, the dude tries to sell them some BS about a rabies outbreak in a military kennel, and unsurprisingly, no one believes him. You see, it turns out, some of the passengers saw the dogs behaving normally until they all started darting off in one direction, something which Jung Won absolutely should have been aware of given he also saw the dogs before it all hit the fan. So now, just like with the helicopter, the survivors have even more reason to suspect that their government is trying to hide something. And just to make matters worse, if the truth of the matter ever comes to light, it'll be obvious the Secretary of Security knew about it, since his top aide deliberately made up a cover story. Keep in mind, our hero here is not a public figure. He could have easily got onto the bus and told everyone he found a working radio and that help is on the way. And guess what? Neither of these statements would have been lies. Help really is coming in the form of a heavily armed SWAT team. Let's just hope they get here quick. Huh, looks like the folks at the Blue House went with Plan B. Nah, it was actually the rest of the Chinook landing on the tanker truck, which still doesn't seem like enough to take out a bridge of this size, but we'll just go with it. What's more important is that the structure is no longer stable. There's no telling if or when it might collapse, but if we're still here when that happens, they'll be fishing out bits and pieces for the next 10 years. Lucky for us, the SWAT team is still able to fast rope in from the airport side and start working its way through the wreckage. However, there's just one problem. The dogs are nowhere to be found. And since we know that they couldn't have left the bridge, that's probably bad. Not according to the cops, though. The way they see it, the expertly trained and highly aggressive battle borks simply ran away. So I guess there's nothing to worry about. Oh, except where did they run away to? This section of the bridge is totally cut off. with a roaring chemical fire on one side and a partial collapse on the other. So no, the dogs obviously didn't run away. They're just hiding, which is exactly what someone does right before they ambush you. Hell, even Jung Won of all people puts this together, and he's an idiot. But like any good peon, he's more than willing to ignore any and all signs of imminent danger the second his boss gives him an order. And so, just like that, the survivors exit the bus and begin their long walk down the smorgasbord. Now, it's worth pointing out that the scientist, i.e., the one person on this bridge who knows what the dogs are truly capable of, throws an absolute fit over this idea, and for good reason. Sure, the SWAT team might have range on their side, but between the fog and all the abandoned vehicles lying around, they won't see the targets until they're right on top of them, and at that point, it might very well be too late. That said, it didn't have to be this way. These aren't just a bunch of random beat cops coming in to assist with the rescue. They're likely members of the Korean National Police Special Operations Unit, meaning they'd have access to many of, if not all, the fancy toys that you might expect from something like the FBI's hostage rescue team. And considering the Blue House called them in directly, it's safe to assume that they'd be operating with some level of military support as well. Knowing this, it makes absolutely no sense for these guys to be operating exclusively under white light with zero overwatch. Based on the scene of them loading into vans, it's clear that they were aware of the threat the dogs posed, and while it's doubtful that they were given a complete rundown of the project, even regular dogs would be extremely difficult to spot in these conditions. And besides, they're a counter-terror unit. The mere fact that they're being called in to deal with this situation means things are seriously f***ed up, so why not take every precaution available? At the very least, I'd have every member of the assault team kitted out with thermal monoculars to make up for the lack of visibility. It still won't be perfect, as dense fog does limit the range and clarity of thermal imaging to some degree, but it wouldn't be much. And either way, they'd be a hell of a lot better off than they are right now. Of course, even with enhanced vision, the abundance of cover and concealment is still going to be a problem, so we'll need some kind of eye in the sky to call out any flea bags trying to get the drop on us. I'm thinking something like a Korean Air KUSFS unmanned aerial vehicle, similar to the US-made MQ-9 Reaper. Granted, it's probably not something the SOU would normally be working with, but given the military is already neck-deep in this debacle, there's a chance that they might be willing to lend one out. If not, a couple quadcopter drones equipped with thermals could probably accomplish the same thing, although it's possible the signal jammer might interfere with their ability to operate. Lucky for us, the jammer seemed to be located fairly close to the insertion point, so we could easily shut it down and send the drones in afterwards. And finally, we should think about setting up a few sharpshooters on the other side of the collapse to help spot and eliminate any dogs ahead of the assault team. These guys would be equipped with HK-G28 semi-automatic rifles with thermal optics, something like the Trijicon Reap IR. As for positioning, we'd have them climb up on top of the SWAT vans to boost their line of sight, which should be enough to let them see beyond the pileup. Best case scenario, the marksmen punch out all the dogs before the rest of the team even touches the ropes. But if nothing else, it'll be nice to have a few extra sets of eyes looking downrange. At any rate, these are just a few simple ideas I had based on fairly superficial research. In reality, the South Korean response to this disaster would probably be a lot more sophisticated. They do take their security pretty seriously after all. But unfortunately for all the people on the bridge right now, this is not reality. It's more like a fever dream, and it's about to become a nightmare. Well, they're all screwed, but you know what? I can forgive them for going in under-equipped. Maybe they were just in a hurry, or the higher-ups didn't want to spend a lot of money. However, what I can't forgive them for is the fact that they chose to lead their train of tax cattle through the twisted metal graveyard rather than the completely open side of the bridge. I mean, just look at this. The airport-bound lanes are totally clear almost the entire way back. All they had to do was cross over the median, and there'd be nowhere for the dogs to hide. At that point, they could just form up around the civilians and calmly escort them back to the ropes. It is as simple as that. And sure, the fog's still a factor, but even with the reduced visibility, they'd still have plenty of time to line up a shot before things got hairy. In fact, were it not for the cops getting absolutely massacred themselves, I'd say they'd probably did this on purpose. You know, tie up loose ends. In any case, when the dust finally settles, pretty much everyone outside the core group ends up dead. And while the SWAT team did manage to take out 3 of the dogs before checking out, the 6 that remain are more off than ever. What's more, we come to find out that they dragged off all the firearms after the encounter to prevent anyone from using them. Although, it is a little strange that they would choose to leave a flare pistol. Like, I get that you could theoretically train an animal to recognize the general shape of a firearm, but are we really supposed to believe that they have the capacity to differentiate between various types? Whatever. At this point, I'll take anything I can get. Might also be a good idea to check the dead officers for knives and flashbangs too, assuming we have the time, of course. As for what we do next, we're starting to run out of options. The rest of the bridge could collapse at any moment, so even if we manage to hide from the dogs, we're really just forestalling the inevitable. And since our escort team had to go and get themselves nommed on, there's basically 0 chance of us making it to extract on foot. With that in mind, it makes sense Jung-won would stash his daughter on a bus while he goes back to find the radio. I mean, it never should have left his pocket in the first place, but that's beside the point. Fact is, getting more help on the way is their best chance for survival, and that's probably not gonna happen if everyone back at the Blue House thinks that they're already dead. Let's just hope that they try harder next time. For now, all our guy can do is link up with the other survivors and lead them back to the bus, assuming they're still willing to follow him, that is. You see, back before the bridge collapse, Jung-won got the science guy to spill his guts about the project, and considering the tow truck driver was sitting right next to them, that probably was not such a great idea. Fortunately, it turns out that these folks are fairly quick to forgive, so I guess it's all good then.
여기 남아있는 사람들이 다 안다고요. 이제 못 돕는다고.
Right? Yeah, says you. Seriously though, why would you tell him that? You put yourself, your daughter, and all these other nobodies directly in between your boss and the presidency. What world do you live in where that is gonna help you? Now, even if you do somehow manage to make it to the break, I can 100% guarantee you that the rescue team that you think is gonna be there is not gonna be there. Dude probably had them pull the ropes back up and pack it in the second you got off the radio. No, if our guy had any brains at all, he'd realize that they're totally on their own from here on out. But like the good dog that he is, Jung-won trusts his master implicitly. This brings us back to the bus where Science Boy just finished filling in the details of the Blood Pack's backstory. According to him, the dogs were made even more violent than usual by deliberately executing puppies in front of them. And no, I'm not kidding. That's actually what happened. Now, this is where things stop making sense. Well, okay, they stopped making sense a while ago, but hear me out. So back when the Secretary of Security was being briefed on the situation, his staffers told him that the dogs were being moved to another facility for euthanasia following the project's termination. But now this guy's saying that they were killing dogs all the time as part of the program. So, what? Did they run out of hammers or something? Why couldn't they have just snuffed them all out back at the main lab? Oh yeah, it's also worth pointing out that if the dogs were being sent off to die, there was absolutely no reason for the truck driver to go back and check on them. Then again, this was a military convoy, so it's entirely possible the poor guy had no idea what he was moving or why. But still, they never should have been on the road in the first place. In fact, this whole canine assassin thing just sounds ridiculous. We already have military attack dogs, and as I understand it, they're pretty effective. And besides, if you want to turn an animal into a guided munition, wouldn't it make more sense to use something cute and innocuous? I mean, just think. The moment someone sees a cane corso coming at them, they're gonna freak the f out and try to kill it. But replace that cane corso with, say, a toy poodle, and no one's gonna bat an eye. I call it Project Puppy Cuddles. We'll use the same technology to identify the target, only instead of abusing the dogs and training them to kill, we'll treat them like family and make sure that they love people. Then, when the time comes, we'll place each selected unit in a hand-knitted sweater that has the words, "I love you," written in the local language. Keep in mind, The sweater is very important, and not only will it make the dogs appear friendlier, it'll also conceal the large amount of plastic explosives and ball bearings fastened around their midsection. Anyway, once Fido finds the mark, it will instinctively roll over onto its back to receive belly rubs, at which point, mission accomplished. Oh, and General Dynamics, if you're watching, I am accepting new sponsors at this time. Now, getting back to the story, we join Team Good Guy just as they're arriving at the bus. However, they're not out of the woods just yet. Turns out the scientist isn't willing to risk his own life to save his own life, which is why he's fighting tooth and nail to stop Kyung Min from opening the door. Worse yet, it seems the dog show already had this place surrounded. And while our heroes might be able to keep them back with improvised torches, it's only a matter of time before their fire dies out. Good thing John Wan still has an ace up his sleeve. First bright idea he's had all night. Still, it's far from a clean getaway, as one of the survivors, the old lady, was fatally mauled during the struggle. This is, of course, entirely the scientist's fault, and the way I see it, it's time for him to go. God knows the last thing that we need is some nutcase stabbing us in the back when we're right by the finish line. Lucky for him, the gang is content with simply kicking him square in the chest, so I guess that'll have to do. At least for now, anyway. Of course, the real question is where to go from here. We can use the tow man's master key to get the bus started, so that's not an issue. But between the burning tanker truck on the Seoul side and the collapsed section on the other, we can't exactly drive our way to freedom. Well, to clarify, we could drive out if we were on the other side of the median, as there, it's only flames blocking the way rather than the whole truck. Problem is, with such limited space, we're probably not busting through the guardrails without getting stuck, so that's not going to be an option. However, we're not hosed just yet, for you see, there is still one and only one vehicle that we can use to cross the flames, the tow truck. And the best part is, Jeon Won would absolutely have to know about it, since he and his daughter met the driver on their way out from Seoul. It'll be a pretty tight squeeze fitting all 7 of us in there, but we can always toss out the scientist if we need extra room. Assuming we can even make it inside, that is. You see, the truck is all the way on the other side of the road, which means reaching it is gonna be a problem. You know, for the driver. Hey, we did save his life after all, so the least he can do is make it worth our while. But unfortunately, because Jung Won's still totally convinced that help is on the way, dude doesn't even consider the possibility that they might need a backup plan. And so, without so much as a second thought, the gang drives right past the tow truck to the break in the bridge. Now, it's unclear whether they'd be able to see the other side from where they're currently parked, but given the boss suddenly stopped responding on the radio, it should be fairly obvious to everyone involved that they've been hung out to dry. Nevertheless, our heroes decide that they need to check it out for themselves, and that means getting rid of the dogs. But how? Well, easily, of course. Turns out all they had to do was hide in the cargo hold and lure them onto the bus with K-rap music. Then, once all the dogs were on board, they shut the door behind them using some fishing line and that's it. Problem solved. Well, alright, there was one casualty, but he sorta did it to himself.
혼자 둘 수 없습니다. 부탁입니다.
Okay, dude, you know she probably weighs like 100 pounds, right? Just carry her off the bus. The exit hatch was less than 3 feet away. It would have taken a second. And sure, I get it sucks to live on without her, but you gotta believe that those dogs are not gonna make it quick. Oh well, more room in the tow truck. Speaking of which, this would have been an excellent way for us to reach it without getting mauled. My only concern is that the bus windows probably are not dog-proof, but maybe there was another way that we could have gone about it. After all, if you could lure all the dogs into the seating area, why couldn't you lure them into the cargo hold? We would start by opening one of the outer doors and leaving a phone inside with a 10-second timer. Then, after crawling back up through the floor hatch, we would wait for the dogs to enter the space below, at which point we would quickly exit through the main doors and shut the hatch behind them. Easy. Plus, this would also allow us to re-enter the bus in case we forgot something important. You know, like the tow man's keys. Seriously, how do you actually forget something like that? Like, I understand that they weren't planning to use the truck at the time, but the dude probably wanted to go home later, right? Whatever. maybe we won't need them. Maybe the career statesman whose livelihood and future ambitions directly depend on everybody dying here will see the error of his ways and choose not to sacrifice his only friend for the sake of political expedience. Nope, I guess not. However, there is still one last option that we can explore, the cell phone jammer. We know from earlier that it was set up somewhere near the dog trailer, which means it has to be close by. So here's what I'm thinking. We find the jammer, shut it down, and then immediately reach out to the boss's chief political rival. Sure, Jian-Wan might be a lackey, but he's still pretty far up the food chain, so I can't imagine this would be too difficult for him. Anyway, once we've got the other candidate on the line, we'll explain the situation and the secretary's involvement. And if we're lucky, he'll connect us with his cronies and media so we can quickly broadcast our predicament straight to the public. At that point, the boss's hand will likely be forced, and that's assuming the president doesn't order our rescue directly. Will all this be possible before the bridge collapses? I don't know. But given both the tense political climate and the fact that this is already a massive public spectacle, I think things will move pretty fast. And we also might land a new job out of it. You never know. One thing's for sure though, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting as the plan that they come up with, because the plan that they come up with is f***ing stupid. Basically, the scientists decide his control program will somehow suddenly work again, and so after tracking down his laptop, they set Jian-Wan as the dog's new target and put him in the trailer where he can't possibly escape. Once that's done, the random professional golfer chick on the team will use her special golf powers to smack balls into the bus's windshield, freeing the dogs of course, and allowing the tow man to go get his keys. Now, for some reason, the next part of the plan involves the driver hitching the trailer to his rig so they can pull it out through the flames. Evidently, they think that there's a chance that Jian-Wan will still be alive at that point. I'm not sure why they would think that, given everything that's happened tonight, but they do. So I guess we're gonna do this. Here's my question though. If the dogs will pursue their target no matter what, why couldn't they put our guy somewhere out of reach? Like, on top of the trailer. You could even free spool the winch on the tow truck and hook it to the trailer preemptively. That way, as soon as the driver's ready to go, they can pull Jian-Wan to safety without having to go back for him. I mean, it's not like you actually need the dogs to prove the project's existence. You already have the lead scientist and all his data on the laptop. Just snap a few pictures if you're really that worried. Oh well, I'm not gonna waste your time with suspense. Their plan works perfectly, or at least as perfect as something like this can go. Really, the only thing that goes wrong is that the one uncontrollable dog unsurprisingly cannot be controlled, and that somehow takes them all by surprise. In any case, it's of very little consequence. The thing ultimately runs off after biting the science guy's arm. The bridge starts collapsing, all the dogs fall in the water, Ki-Young-min saves her dad because she never listens, you get the idea. But at least it has a happy ending.
우리 지금 뭐가 중요한지.
And with that, our heroes learn a valuable lesson about politics, while also developing an all-consuming phobia of dogs. In the end, only 6 out of who knows how many people made it out alive, and so did 2 of the dogs. And while many of the deaths were unavoidable due to the car accident, there's absolutely no reason why the murder mutts should have been allowed to get loose. That said, once the chaos really kicked off, an appropriate response from law enforcement would have saved literally everybody on the first bus, and our other strategies would have made the rest of this nightmare a whole lot easier to deal with. For that reason, I think Project Silence was beaten. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't stream and drive.